I'm Joe Lample. When I created Growing a Greener World, I had one goal: to tell stories of everyday people, innovators, entrepreneurs, forward-thinking leaders who are all, in ways both big and small, dedicated to organic gardening and farming, lightening our footprint, conserving vital resources, protecting natural habitats, making a tangible difference for us all. They're real, they're passionate, they're all around us. They're the game changers who are literally growing a greener world and inspiring the rest of us to do the same. Growing a greener world, it's more than a movement, it's our mission. You know, we have traveled to a lot of major cities, telling the stories of people connecting to their food, even growing their food within big cities. But one of the things we haven't covered, at least until now, is all the agricultural changes taking place just outside of some of those major cities. According to the American Farmland Trust, we're losing 1 valuable acre of fertile farmland every minute of every day to urban development. To put it in perspective, all of this would be gone in 3 minutes. This farmland is prime real estate to developers because it's relatively flat and it drains well, and it's affordable. But unfortunately, once this open space is paved over, it usually becomes crowded, unsustainable, cookie-cutter communities that are more often than not referred to as the typical suburban subdivision. Just outside of Chicago, there's one suburban neighborhood that's anything but typical. Prairie Crossing, a conservation community in Grays Lake, Illinois, is a complete redesign of the American dream. With 60% open space, Prairie Crossing has only 359 homes within the 667-acre subdivision. It's surrounded by over 3,000 acres of protected prairie, pasture, and wetland areas. As an alternative to standard golf or tennis subdivisions, this place has a 100-acre working organic farm as the center of the community. Meet George and Vicki Ranney, the husband and wife team who spearheaded this development over 20 years ago. Both of the Ranneys have long histories in conservation and environmentalism. And although they hadn't seen this done before, they believed that a community could coexist with both protected land and sustainable agriculture. Their vision was to build that while supporting the stewardship of the land.
Prairie Crossing began as an effort to stop dense development on 675 acres of land. And it was started by a group of neighbors who owned farms adjacent to it and wanted to protect the environment and their own property. But they needed to do something to get it going in a way that would generate some return for them. They also wanted to do something positive.
The difference between Prairie Crossing and a typical subdivision, I think, is that it is intended to be a community, and it's intended to be conservationist. That is, to conserve the best there is of the land in various ways: natural areas, swimming areas, trails, farm, so forth. Most subdivisions aren't set up that way. They're not set up that way by government regulations, and they're not set up that way by developers who typically want to sell houses and move on.
This place is different because it's oriented towards nature. Most conventional developers don't have the time or the inclination to do that, because people like these kinds of features. They like to live in nature. They like to live in a community that has activities that are oriented to something like nature. They love the idea of education in line with the environment. They love a healthy lifestyle. And it's turned out that this is very, very different than a conventional subdivision, and we're just delighted to see other developers pick up on these ideas, which is now happening.
The 10 guiding principles that we came up with at the very beginning have been very important because we go back to them as touchstones as different opportunities arise. They are things like lifelong learning and education. And an example of how that worked was that shortly after we started construction, the state legislature passed a law allowing people to start charter schools. So we thought, let's see if we can do it. And we started a charter school oriented around the environment, with kids using the farm and growing things themselves and being outdoors a whole lot.
We've tried to plan for the future here by creating a foundation that would carry on activities, including farming, here on the property. And we've paid for that in part by charging a fee for each house that's sold. And that has been very successful. That little foundation has grown so it generates $1 million a year that we put into farming for places other than Prairie Crossing, as well as protecting it and expanding it here.
In terms of the future, what I hope is that this remains a thriving, wonderful community as it is today. In terms of what other people copy, I hope that different developers consider this model for the places where they are developing, and it should be different in different places.
All this is looking towards the future, trying to take what we've done at Prairie Crossing and extend it so that it's influential upon other people.
Nestled inside the Prairie Crossing community for the past 10 years is Sandhill Family Farms, an organic, independently owned business set up as a partnership between two farming families. Half of that team is comprised of Jeff and Jen Miller. Now they're the resident farmers responsible for overseeing the 45 acres on the farm, as well as running the community-supported agricultural co-op. They're also in the unique position of being both neighbors and one of the major food suppliers to the community, as well as the greater Chicago area. So Jeff, explain to me the dynamics of the farm to community relationship. I mean, here you are, a pretty good sized farm, right here in the community that you happen to also live in. So how's that working for you?
All in all, it works really well. It's great to have a much closer relationship with our customers and be on a first name basis. A lot of our kids go to school together, and so we get to see them at all sorts of outside of the farm events.
So what's the best part, would you say, of having the farm right there in your community? Is it the interaction that you get with your customers, or what would it be?
I think the interaction and the relationships we have is probably the number one opportunity, or the best piece of it.
Yep.
There's a lot of sort of less tangible things I think that we have just with our proximity to people and how we can work closely with them and the activities that they can partake in the farm that if we were that much more removed,
yes,
we might not be able to.
Yeah, and for you, especially when you see the people that you are actually feeding, I mean, that's got to be kind of a cool feeling.
Mm-hmm. It's really great. And then when we go to a party with them or see them at, the school play, and then on the off comment they'll make about how much they've been enjoying everything. And
The pressure's on though, because you gotta perform all the time in those cases. What's the downside? Maybe that's it too. Talk to me about some of those things. Being so close.
On occasion it's a little awkward, I suppose, but I think that, I don't know that we hold ourselves to much of a higher standard because we're part. I think we would have the same standard whether we were part of the community or not. It's just we get that added benefit of being able to see them and talk to them. And on occasion we get a lot better feedback because of that, because we're also sort of friends and we live in the same community, so sometimes I think we get better feedback from them because we're friends that we might not otherwise if it was just strictly a farm and consumer kind of relationship.
I think one of the drawbacks might be, you could consider it a positive. We feel really responsible to the people that are our members. We feel responsible to show them what we're doing, to be completely honest with them about what we're doing, to show them what we're working on and the things that aren't going well for us. We want to tell them and show them those things. So they really are more in the loop and really, they know the honest truth. I think what makes our farm unique is that we have 2 farm locations. We have one farm location in Broadhead, Wisconsin, where Matt and Peg Schaefer and their family run the Wisconsin farm. And we have a Grays Lake, Illinois location where Jeff and myself run the farm. And the 2 farms work together to produce our CSA shares. And it's really quite unique because in most situations it's just one farm family, but our farm is sustaining 2 farm families.
Tell me about your CSA.
We started out originally as just vegetables and pretty quickly added fruit into the mix. So we work with one farm exclusively in Michigan that grows the fruit. And then over the past couple of years, we've added in meat and dairy and egg shares as well. So people have the option to choose a la carte and they can get some or all as they like.
Yeah. So doing what you do best and letting others do what they do best, and yet combining all your forces gives everybody the best of all worlds, right?
Yep, we have a much better quality of life. You know, we're not constantly on the go trying to keep track of a bazillion things.
Right.
We can focus on vegetables and somebody else can focus on making really wonderful cheese, and then we can get that to our customers who wouldn't otherwise have access to it.
Sounds good. When it comes to having a true understanding of all the environmental benefits of prairie crossing, Mike Sands knows them best. He started 19 years ago as the founding executive director of the Liberty Prairie Foundation. He was also the environmental team leader, responsible for all of the design and installation of the natural areas, including the lake, prairie, and wetlands. Beyond the agricultural component to this, which is fascinating in and of itself in this community, you've done so much more as it relates to conservation and environmental protection. Talk to me about some of those other elements.
From the very beginning, we considered this a conservation community. We were committed to working with the landscape to build the best possible community in terms of its environmental impact. We focused really on 3 major elements. First, stormwater management. Second, biodiversity. And third, community involvement and advocacy. When you look around you, you'll see that the prairie, it all slopes towards the lake. It's raining out here today. We've got the water running off the trails, running off the roofs, running off the streets. And what happens is that water then runs sequentially through the prairie, through the wetland, and into the lake. That both improves the quality of the water and reduces the amount of flow of stormwater.
Right.
So that lake is our stormwater detention basin, but it's also, because of the high water quality, an amenity. We actually swim in our detention basin.
Wow.
We've been able to decrease the water leaving the site by 60% compared to prior to development. We use the same landscape to enhance the biodiversity. So these prairies and wetlands probably have over 100 plants in them now. That supports a wide variety of birds, insects, reptiles, amphibians. If you use, for instance, birds as a marker,
Okay.
there were probably 10 to 15 bird species here prior to development regularly. We now have over 130 that we've measured over the past couple of years that are using this site. Finally, we've focused on, through the site design, engaging people in that open space. So everyone fronts onto the natural areas. That gives them the opportunity, both out of their backyard, but also using the trails, that they really start to understand these natural areas. And that then leads to their becoming advocates, not only here in the community, not only here in the state of Illinois, but nationally and globally. And we think that's an important piece of what we need to do in the larger picture.
So true. Although they may not have come on board with that appreciation, by living in it and in experiencing what they have here, surely they get the point, and that's contagious.
It is contagious. We've worked hard at it, and I think we've done a pretty good job. It's been an interesting journey.
Since the beginning, another important role for Mike was to generate a lot more attention and focus on the agricultural areas, especially the Farm Business Development Center. Today, in fact, most of Mike's time is now spent on the beginning farmer programs, the Farm Business Development Center, and access to additional farmland.
I didn't realize how much 100 acres really was until you get out in the middle of it.
Well, when you get out, it's like, it's not terribly tight, but it's serving multiple functions.
Yeah. So tell me more about the farm business development opportunity.
We established a Farm Business Development Center for young farmers or aspiring farmers. Often the way they get into farming is they've been working on farms for a number of years, either as an apprentice or labor. They've worked their way up, they've developed experience, they've probably taken a business development course or a business management course at the local community college. But then they have this huge jump of how do I actually test myself on land without making a land purchase that is frankly going to break the bank at the beginning.
Right.
But they're looking then to prove themselves. They need to have a place where they need land. And we can provide that land. We provide a fairly small piece, up to 5 acres, for up to 5 years at market rate. They rent that, they rent irrigation water, they rent greenhouse transplant space, they wash pack, cooler space, all of the components, equipment, everything they need to start farming. They can do it on a lease basis as opposed to having to purchase it to start with.
Yeah.
We have 4 incubator farms. On this side we have Midnight Sun Farm, which is in their 5th year. They're a CSA market garden. They also have some laying hens, and they do turkeys for Thanksgiving. On this side we have Marigold Hill Farm, which is in their 2nd year. They're doing 5 acres. They have markets, farmers markets, and some short chain wholesale relationships. They don't do a CSA.
Okay.
Behind us we have Radical Root Farm, which is in the process of graduating over to Casey Farm for long term.
Yeah.
And Matt Vecchi's Pigs.
Right.
The CSA kind of pork production.
Tell me more about the mentoring program and the value that that has really for everyone involved.
I think it's actually critical to the success of this. A beginning farmer has a sense of what they want and where they're going, but to be able to see it on a daily basis, for the farmers here to drive back and forth along these lanes, look out on the left and see Sandhills operations, realize that that's supporting 2 farm families, that keeps setting up a goal for them, a bar for them to aim at. At the same time, it's people who can answer questions, both more spiritual questions, what am I doing farming, but also the more technical questions of, my broccoli isn't doing very well. Why? What? Can you come look at it? So it's a combination of technical question and answer, but also some help with the bigger picture and keeping the spirits up and helping them look to the future.
So when times are good, it's an opportunity to celebrate with your coworkers, and when times are tough, to commiserate. And then when you need some help, you've got that too.
And the reality is, we talk about Sandhill Family Farms being the primary mentor, but it's actually a larger community because it is the other beginning farmers. They share information, they share experiences. As you say, they commiserate when the market is lousy on a given day. They can speak to someone who knows what they're going through, and they can celebrate when things are good. When you come back from a great market day and it's hot and you're unloading at the cooler, and you walk into the cooler and you sit in the cooler with a cold beer.
I was just thinking that.
There are these great pictures I've had of opening a cooler late on a Saturday afternoon and finding 2 farmers in there sharing a beer, celebrating over something.
I don't think it gets any better. The people in this community are in a unique position to pay it forward with what they've learned at Prairie Crossing, and they do, under the guidance of the Liberty Prairie Foundation. This environmentally focused foundation was established 20 years ago as the planning for Prairie Crossing was underway. And they're now a national leader in local and regional food systems and in incorporating land health within working landscapes. They not only own the 100-acre farm at Prairie Crossing, but they also pilot several programs here. These programs not only educate and prepare local emerging farmers, but also teach young people about sustainable agriculture and the importance of healthy, resilient landscapes. Brad Liebob is the president and CEO of the Liberty Prairie Foundation.
The Liberty Prairie Foundation was established 20 years ago as an environmental organization. We're the owners of the Prairie Crossing Farm, and we use the farm to advance our mission around food system change. We're also an environmental organization and support programs in the region to advance land health and land protection. We established the Prairie Farm Corps program to provide an opportunity for youth to learn more about sustainable agriculture. We felt that having a 100-acre farm that is primarily used by farm businesses, we needed to have opportunities for young adults to learn about sustainable agriculture, explore some of the challenges and opportunities that come with food production, and to create opportunities for youth to develop skills necessary to be successful in this economy.
The Prairie Farm Corps Kids program is pretty incredible. Several hundred people apply for only 14 positions, and they work long hours all summer long, but they love it. Some of them have been out here more than 1 year, and they're all learning for whatever special reasons they have. Some of them want to do it just to learn how to grow their own food. Others want to do it to take it to a new level with possibly a business in the future. And others are doing it for somebody special in their lives, just to help make that connection between what happens from the garden and the connection with the gardener. It's pretty incredible stories.
It's like this is helping me for my future, my future goals, my future dream per se.
Which is what? What's your future dream?
I want to open up an educational farm for special needs students.
Wow.
Yes.
So sounds like you really want to do something big time with this training.
Yeah.
So like farm for a living?
Maybe. More like a business farm.
So the science behind the
Yeah.
how to make it grow better?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good thing. Sounds good. Beyond everything that you're learning, what's the most important thing, do you think, to be out here and learning all of this?
Well, the things that I'll learn, I'll use them for my community and maybe start a community garden or help others to build their own organic things.
That's good for you. I guess that's one of the reasons you got selected. And why are you out here? I mean, you could have been doing a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
Why this job?
This directly relates to what I want to do in the future and what I'm studying right now, which is sustainable agriculture and local food systems.
Yeah.
And as I'm in school, there's no better way to spend my summer than actually practicing what I'm learning and gaining real life experience on a learning farm where it is meant to teach you, what this is for, how to do it, and why it's important.
And you're doing it organically?
Organically, yep.
How important is all that?
Beyond important, people need to really realize how good this food tastes when it's grown with care on a small farm, organically, not using any chemicals, nothing funky. And the results are there. I mean, you can taste them.
Yeah. The partnership between the community of Prairie Crossing, the Liberty Prairie Foundation, and even the farmers of Sandhill Family Farms has blossomed into a great example that others can emulate. And by thinking outside the norm, they're finding great ways for modern urban living, especially in the future. If you'd like to learn more about conservation subdivisions, we have a lot of great information on our website under the show notes for this episode. And you'll find it on our website, the same as our show name, growingagreenerworld.com. I'm Joe Lample. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time for more Growing a Greener World.